The Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union, winter 1959. The wind howls through the frozen valleys like a warning. Temperatures drop below -30 degrees. The wilderness is vast, merciless, and empty. 9 experienced hikers climb toward a remote mountain known as Kholat Syakhl. In the local Mansi language, the name means dead mountain. They are led by a young engineering student named Igor Dyatlov. Skilled, disciplined, and confident. These are not amateurs. They know the mountains. They know survival. But something will happen on that mountain that will defy explanation for decades. On the night of February 1st, the hikers pitch their tent on the open slope. It is an unusual choice. Experienced climbers normally seek shelter below the ridge, but that night, something goes wrong. Search teams arrive weeks later. What they discover is terrifying.
The tent has been cut open from the inside, not unzipped, cut, as if the hikers were trying to escape in panic. Footprints lead away from the tent, barefoot, into the freezing darkness. The bodies are found scattered across the mountain. Some are partially clothed, others are barefoot in deep snow. One hiker has a crushed skull. Another has broken ribs so severe investigators say the force resembled a car crash. One woman is missing her tongue. Yet there are no signs of a struggle, no tracks of another person, no clear cause of death. The Soviet investigation reaches a vague conclusion. The hikers died because of an unknown, compelling force. More than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most chilling, unsolved mysteries in history. Sometimes the most terrifying question is the simplest one. What made 9 experienced hikers run into the frozen night? The year is 1937. Aviation is still young. The sky is a frontier waiting to be conquered, and one woman stands at its edge. Amelia Earhart, pilot, pioneer, global celebrity. She has already become the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. Newspapers celebrate her as the symbol of fearless exploration. But Earhart wants something bigger. She plans to fly around the world. Nearly 47,000 kilometers across oceans, continents, and some of the most remote airspace on Earth. The journey progresses well until July 2nd. Earhart and her navigator Fred Noonan approach a tiny speck of land in the Pacific Ocean, Howland Island. They are running low on fuel. Radio messages become increasingly desperate. "We must be on you, but cannot see you." The U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca waits below, sending radio signals. But something is wrong. Earhart cannot see the island. Her final transmission crackles across the airwaves. "We are running north and south." And then, silence. The plane never arrives. An enormous search operation begins. Ships scour the Pacific. Aircraft scan thousands of kilometers of ocean. Nothing is found. No wreckage, no confirmed debris, no bodies. Over the decades, theories multiply. Did Earhart crash into the sea? Did she land on a remote island and die as a castaway? Or was she secretly captured by Japanese forces? Despite countless expeditions, the truth remains hidden somewhere in the vast Pacific. Amelia Earhart set out to circle the world. Instead, she became one of its greatest mysteries. Northern California, late 1960s. A quiet era of suburban expansion in American optimism. But someone is watching from the shadows. A killer begins targeting young couples parked in remote locations. His attacks are brutal, sudden, calculated. But the murders themselves are not what make this case infamous.
It is what comes next. The killer begins writing letters to newspapers. He calls himself Zodiac. His messages contained cryptograms, complex coded puzzles that claim to reveal his identity. He demands they be printed on the front page, or more people will die. Some of the codes are solved, others remain unsolved even today. The Zodiac claims responsibility for 37 murders. Police confirm fewer. But the fear spreads across California. Children avoid school buses. Couples fear secluded roads. The killer taunts investigators openly. "I like killing people because it is so much fun." Despite massive investigations, thousands of suspects, and decades of analysis, the Zodiac is never definitively identified. Fingerprints, handwriting, DNA. Nothing leads to a confirmed identity. The Zodiac Killer wanted to become legend. In one chilling sense, he succeeded. Because more than 50 years later, the name still echoes in the dark corners of criminal history.
December 1872. A merchant ship named the Mary Celeste sails across the Atlantic Ocean. The ship carries alcohol cargo bound for Italy. On board are 10 people: Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife, his young daughter, and 7 crew members. Weeks later, another vessel spots the ship drifting near the Azores. The sails are partially set. The ship appears seaworthy, but something is terribly wrong. No one is aboard. The lifeboat is gone. Personal belongings remain untouched. Cargo is still in place. Even the captain's valuables remain. It looks as if the crew simply vanished. No signs of violence, no struggle, no explanation. Investigators speculate mutiny, piracy, sea monsters, or panic over fumes from the alcohol cargo. But none of the theories fully explain the evidence. The Mary Celeste becomes the most famous ghost ship in maritime history, a vessel abandoned in the middle of the ocean, its crew lost forever. Sometimes the sea keeps its secrets. North America, 1587. English settlers arrive on Roanoke Island. This is meant to be the first permanent English colony in the New World. More than 100 men, women, and children begin building a settlement. Supplies run low quickly. Their governor, John White, sails back to England for help. But Europe is on the brink of war. The Spanish Armada threatens invasion. White cannot return for 3 years. When he finally sails back to Roanoke in 1590, he expects to find a struggling colony. Instead, he finds something far stranger. The settlement is abandoned, homes dismantled, no bodies, no signs of battle, no graves. The colonists have simply disappeared. Only one clue remains. Carved into a wooden post is a single word: Croatoan, the name of a nearby island. White wants to search there, but storms prevent the expedition. The investigation ends, and the Roanoke colonists are never found. More than 4 centuries later, the lost colony remains one of the earliest mysteries in American history, a community erased without a trace. Adelaide, Australia, December 1948. A man is found dead on Somerton Beach. He is well dressed, suit, tie, polished shoes. But there is something strange about him. There are no identification documents. The labels on his clothes have been carefully removed. The cause of death cannot be determined. No poison is detected, but investigators believe poisoning is likely. Then things become even stranger.
Inside a hidden pocket in his pants is a tiny piece of paper, printed with 2 words, Tamam Shud. It means ended or finished. The phrase comes from a rare book of Persian poetry called the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Police eventually locate the exact book. Inside is a mysterious coded message and a phone number linked to a nearby nurse. But the nurse denies knowing the dead man. To this day, his identity remains uncertain. Was he a spy? A victim of espionage during the early Cold War? Or something else entirely? The Somerton Man remains one of the most puzzling, unsolved cases of the 20th century. A man without a name, a message without a solution.
In a library vault sits a book that has confused scholars for more than 600 years, the Voynich Manuscript. Discovered in 1912, the book contains more than 200 pages of strange writing. No one has ever deciphered it. The language does not match any known alphabet. The illustrations are equally bizarre. Unknown plants, strange astronomical diagrams, women bathing in mysterious green liquid. Cryptographers, linguists, historians, and even artificial intelligence systems have attempted to decode it. All have failed. Some believe it is an elaborate hoax. Others think it could be an encrypted scientific text centuries ahead of its time. But if it is a hoax, it is one of the most sophisticated ever created. The Voynich Manuscript remains unread, a book that exists but cannot be understood.
August 15, 1977, Ohio State University. A radio telescope scans the sky for signals from space. Suddenly, the machine detects something unusual, a powerful radio signal, unlike anything recorded before. It lasts 72 seconds. The signal originates from deep space near the constellation Sagittarius. Astronomer Jerry Eman circles the printout in red pen. Next to it, he writes a single word, "Wow," because the signal is incredibly strong and incredibly mysterious. Scientists attempt to detect it again. They never do. The wow signal has never been repeated. Was it a natural cosmic phenomenon, or something far more extraordinary? A brief whisper from somewhere beyond Earth? The universe is vast, and sometimes it speaks, but not always in ways we understand. Germany, 1922. A remote farm called Hinterkaifeck. 6 people live there. One night, they are brutally murdered. The entire family, parents, children, a maid. But the mystery deepens when investigators examine the farm. Someone had been living there after the murders. Neighbors report smoke from the chimney. Animals were fed. Meals were prepared. Footprints in the snow lead toward the farm, but none lead away. Despite massive investigations and hundreds of suspects, the killer is never identified. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of the most disturbing unsolved crimes in European history because the killer may have stayed in the house, living alongside the bodies for days. Christmas Eve, 1945. Fayetteville, West Virginia. The Sodder family gathers inside their home. 10 children live in the house. The evening is warm, filled with the excitement of Christmas morning approaching. But sometime after midnight, something strange begins to happen. The phone rings. When Jenny Sodder answers, a woman on the other end asks for a name she does not recognize. Laughter echoes in the background. Then the caller hangs up. Jenny returns to bed. But hours later, she wakes again. This time, she smells smoke. The house is on fire. George Sodder rushes outside with 4 of his children. Flames quickly consume the building, but 5 of the children are still inside. George attempts to climb to the upper floor using a ladder normally kept beside the house, but the ladder is gone. He tries to drive his trucks closer to the house to reach the windows. Neither engine starts. Neighbors call the fire department. But help does not arrive until morning. By then, the house has burned to ashes.
Investigators conclude that the 5 children died in the fire, but something about the evidence makes the Sodder family suspicious. No human remains are found in the debris, not a single bone.
Later, witnesses report seeing the children in another town. One woman claims she served them breakfast at a roadside diner. Years later, the Sodders receive a mysterious photograph in the mail. The photo appears to show one of the missing sons. On the back is a cryptic message: Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie. The family spends decades searching for answers. They place billboards along highways. They hire private investigators. They refuse to accept the official explanation, because one question never goes away. If 5 children died in that fire, where were the bodies? The Sodder children were never found, and to this day, the mystery of what truly happened that Christmas night remains unsolved.
Off the coast of Nova Scotia lies a small island. For more than 2 centuries, treasure hunters have searched it, because in 1795, a group of teenagers discovered something strange: a deep pit in the ground, layers of wooden platforms every 3 meters. As excavations continued, strange discoveries emerged: flood tunnels, encrypted stones, ancient artifacts. The deeper they dug, the more complex the structure became. Some believe the pit hides pirate treasure. Others believe it contains lost manuscripts of Shakespeare, or even religious artifacts. Millions of dollars have been spent excavating the site. Yet the treasure, if it exists, remains undiscovered. Oak Island has become one of the longest treasure hunts in human history, a mystery buried deep underground. France, 17th century. A mysterious prisoner is held in several royal prisons. He is never identified, and he is forced to wear a mask, not iron as legends claim, but black velvet. His jailers treat him with unusual care, yet they refuse to reveal his identity. Even guards are forbidden to speak with him. When the prisoner dies in 1703, the mystery only deepens. Records describing him disappear. Historians speculate wildly. Was he the secret twin brother of King Louis XIV, a political prisoner who knew too much, or simply a man whose identity had to be erased from history? Centuries later, the mystery still lingers, because sometimes the most powerful secret is a name. March 8, 2014. Kuala Lumpur International Airport is quiet in the early hours of the morning. Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 prepares for departure. A routine flight. 239 people on board. The destination is Beijing. At 12:41 a.m., the aircraft lifts into the night sky. Everything appears normal. For the first 38 minutes, the plane communicates regularly with air traffic control. Then something strange happens. The aircraft's transponder suddenly stops transmitting. The final words from the cockpit are calm. "Good night, Malaysian 370. Moments later, the aircraft vanishes from civilian radar. But military radar detects something unexpected. Instead of continuing toward Beijing, the plane makes a sharp turn. It flies back across Malaysia, then out over the Indian Ocean. For hours. Satellite data suggests the aircraft continued flying for nearly 7 more hours before disappearing somewhere over one of the most remote regions of ocean on Earth. An enormous international search begins. Ships, aircrafts, submarines, autonomous underwater drones. The search becomes one of the most expensive in aviation history. Eventually, small fragments of the plane wash ashore on distant islands in the Indian Ocean. But the main wreckage is never found. What happened inside that cockpit? Was it mechanical failure? Pilot suicide? Hijacking?
or something investigators have not yet imagined. Flight MH370 remains the greatest aviation mystery of the modern era. A massive aircraft carrying hundreds of lives, lost somewhere in the endless ocean.
Siberia, June 30, 1908. The remote forests near the Tunguska River are quiet. Then the sky explodes. A blinding flash lights the horizon. Moments later, a shockwave tears across the landscape. Trees collapse like matchsticks. Windows shatter hundreds of kilometers away. Witnesses describe a fireball streaking across the sky, followed by a thunderous explosion. The blast flattens over 80 million trees, across more than 2,000 square kilometers of forest. The explosion is estimated to be 1,000 times stronger than the Hiroshima atomic bomb. Yet when scientists finally reach the area years later, they find something strange. There is no crater, no meteorite fragments, no clear impact site, just a vast circle of flattened forest radiating outward from a central point. The leading theory suggests a meteor exploded in the atmosphere, but questions remain. Why were so few fragments found? Why did witnesses describe strange glowing clouds for days afterward? More than a century later, the Tunguska explosion remains one of the most powerful and mysterious natural events ever recorded, a cosmic event that nearly erased itself from evidence. Los Angeles, January 1947. A woman's body is discovered in a vacant lot. The scene is horrifying. The victim has been severely mutilated, her body carefully posed. The victim is soon identified as 22-year-old Elizabeth Short, a young, aspiring actress. The newspapers give her a haunting nickname, the Black Dahlia. The murder shocks America. Detectives launch one of the largest investigations in Los Angeles history. Hundreds of suspects are questioned. Thousands of tips flood the police department. Then the killer does something chilling. He contacts the press. Letters arrive at newspapers containing personal belongings of Elizabeth Short. Each message taunts the investigators, promising more clues, but never revealing the truth. The brutality of the crime and the mystery surrounding it turns the case into legend. Over the decades, more than 50 people have confessed to the murder. None could be proven responsible. The Black Dahlia case slowly transforms into something larger than a single crime. It becomes a symbol. A reminder that even in a city filled with lights, cameras, and millions of people, some secrets can still hide in plain sight. And sometimes, justice disappears just as completely as the truth. If you enjoyed this episode of Dark History Explained, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below with the mystery that fascinates you the most. Because history still has many secrets left to uncover.